All right, investors, you got to stop doing this. My name is Rich Lennon. We talk growing the money every morning from 8 to 8:10 every weekday morning. Although we're going to summer hours, are going to be 9 to 9:10 starting next week. I get a lot of calls on just because I'm speaking, right? So when people have a problem with their loans, they give me a call and I'm happy to help out. So if you get a problem, just reach out. But I want to talk about a couple of those problems because I keep seeing really nice, kind, good hearted, meaning well people get run over by their first investments. And there's just a couple things that you can do to really mitigate a lot of the risk involved in doing these types of investments. And I want to talk to them today because people just aren't doing it. All right. Number one, documents, documents, documents. If you need to go to an attorney to make sure that your documents are what you think they are. And the number one way I see a lot of people lose their money is because they write their own documents before they have any idea what writing a document is all about. And a classic example would be somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I've got this investment. I'm doing this flip. I need a fairly small amount of money." And when I say fairly small amount of money, I mean like $25,000 and less. Is $25,000 a lot of money? Of course it is. But $25,000 compared to a piece of property is not a significant amount of money. And so someone will come to you and say, oh, I need this for the renovations. I need this for rehab. I need this for whatever. And you write up some type of promissory note on effectively the back of a napkin. And I'll say, I love AI. Like, there's no bigger supporter of AI than myself, but AI should not be writing these documents either. You have to write documents with an attorney and you have to attach it to real estate. I had a heartbreaking conversation with a young person over the weekend where they did not attach, they lent a significant amount of money and they wrote the contract basically on the back of a napkin. It didn't have a deed of trust or it didn't have a mortgage on the property. And they are likely going to lose a significant amount of their money. If they get their money back, it'll be because they had to chase it for years. Get the right documents and get around other lenders. When you're learning to play a sport, if you're learning to play basketball, who do you go hang out with? You go hang out with other basketball players. You go see what they're doing and you have conversations about it. You don't just go out and wing it and do it yourself. So please, it's so heartbreaking when I have to take those phone calls. Documents written by an attorney, secured by real estate, are a huge factor in whether or not you will get your money back. And so anything else, you're making a huge mistake. All right. Number two, always, always, always be in first position. If you've made 100 loans, you can get in second position because you have at least taken some lumps and had to go through some issues because any business will have issues. But if you are new to lending, you cannot lend in anything but first position. And so if you don't have enough money to lend in first position, and I think that most people get in second or third positions because they don't have enough money for first positions, you need to find a financial friend that can go into that investment with you and you can both prosper from it. But you have to have the resources to get into first position. No second position, certainly no third position loans. The chances of you getting your money back go down significantly. I can't tell you how often this happens, all right? Number three, and I think people don't understand this, the less money you lend, the less likely you are to get it back. And I know that's probably opposite of maybe what a lot of people think, but if you lend $5,000, you really have no recourse to get it back because any recourse to get it back will likely cost you more than $5,000 to get it back. So if you lend someone $5,000 and they don't give it back to you, what do? You go to an attorney in an attempt to get your money back. But how much is the attorney going to charge you? I don't know, they might charge you a $6,000 retainer just to take the appointment. So when you're lending, the more money you lend, ironically, the better chance you have to get it back because there's enough skin in the game that if things go sideways, you can go get an attorney. If you've lent $100,000 and you have to go to an attorney and you have to give that attorney $6,000 to fight for you to get your money back, that is a very reasonable course of action. It's a good business decision. But if you lend $5,000 and you're not getting it back, it is not a good business decision to go spend $6,000 in the hope of getting your $5,000 back. So no small dollar loans if you can avoid it. And I know that that's tough for some people. I know people have only limited resources and they want to get that money moving, but it has to be a significant enough amount of money that if things go wrong, you can justify getting an attorney to go get it back. Otherwise, the chances of you recovering it are fairly small, unfortunately. Number four, if you are not a first position note, a first position deed of trust, or a first position mortgage, and if you're going to do this in a joint venture setting, and I do think there are some cases to be made where doing joint ventures with financial friends, particularly when you're dealing with things like an IRA, have some real tangible advantages. And so I do understand why people will enter the joint venture and partnerships for a single deal. I think I've spoken enough times on I don't believe in long-term partnerships. But if you are in a joint venture on a short-term partnership, you have to have two things. Number one, you have to have some ownership in the entity that controls the asset. And so that translates to you either have to own shares or a piece or a percentage of the LLC that owns the asset, or you have to own a percentage or a piece of the land trust or whatever vehicle you use to control that asset. You have to have ownership because ownership gives you some rights. And so you must have ownership, but you also have to have a joint venture agreement outside of that ownership that defines the relationship. So it defines how long the relationship were, who gets to make the decisions in the relationship. If you run out of money, how do you deal with it? All those things have to be handled in a joint venture. I think if you do those general four things, the chances of you getting your money back drastically increase. It is heartbreaking to take phone calls from people who trusted somebody else, to see that person lose their nest egg and lose their wealth, lose their future in some ways. Man, it's hard. It's hard to take those phone calls. And I would tell you those four things I just listed will solve 95% of those phone calls that I take. And the other 5%, you need to get around other lenders. You need to get around people that have traveled the path that you want to travel. And if you do those things, it will drastically increase the probability that you are going to be successful. All right. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about AI. I know I get a little heat online because I say things like, I'm not sure money's going to be a thing anymore. And maybe I'll sell half my portfolio so that I don't have any debt. So when the great bankruptcy happens in the world, that I'm prepared for it. And I'm going to talk about it tomorrow. All right, everybody. Have a great day.